Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
I want to meet this lovely lady. I've met her virtually. Now I see her in person. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you now to the author of the book, The Story of Britain's Black Airmen, Candice Chimbiri. Candice, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson.
You're no longer a stranger. You're a friend to Morning Barbados, and you brought your books along with you as well, because I know that you've been writing and you've been writing. And so this passion for writing, again, for those who may not know who you are, talk to me a little bit about this passion. Where did it start?
The passion for writing, I would say, started from childhood, but the passion for Black history writing particularly, I would say, started during my secondary education in Barbados, where I had such great teachers and great inspiration and great stories that I thought everyone in the world knew. And then when I went to London, I realized that a lot of this history wasn't known, and that's how I developed the passion and really just continue to write.
Great, so you want to tell the story you knew to those in the UK who did not know what you knew. And so you started writing about?
Well, I started writing in 2009, and I started as a self-published author. So I actually paid to have my books published, and I did it all myself. And then over the years, they became more and more popular. People bought them, they complimented me, they supported me by buying the books, they used them in schools. And then in 2020, I decided to get a book deal and to be traditionally published. And now I'm published by a UK publisher, and the books are reaching an even wider audience, and not just in the UK, but they're available now worldwide.
All over the world indeed, because it's available all over the world. And so you've written this book now called The Story of Britain's Black Airmen.
Yes.
What's the book about, and how in depth was it really for you to be able to pull it all together?
Yes, so this book, the books are children's books, so they are quite small. So they have a lot of information, but packed into a very small size. It took a lot of research, but it's a book that I was inspired to write because of my previous book, The Story of the Windrush.
Yes.
And I realized that many of the Windrush generation who had come to Britain from 1948 onwards, it's actually the 75th anniversary of the arrival of the Windrush this year, but many of those people, they had been to Britain before during the Second World War. And one of the people was, of course, Errol Barrow, who I knew about as our father of independence, but not so much about his service to Britain during the Second World War. And I felt that was something that people in Britain needed to know, that there were Black airmen, there were Black people who served in the RAF during the Second World War, but also for Barbadians, Caribbean people, and people globally. There's so much about the Second World War, and you very rarely see the contributions of the Black airmen. So that's how the idea started. But then as I started to do the research, it grew and grew and grew. I realized there were actually Black airmen during the First World War, and I realized that there was a whole story about aviation of, in Africa and the Caribbean. So I wanted to tell a bit more about that.
And I'm glad you took time to do the research, because legend is as legend is, but sometimes legend can be colored depending on who tells the story. But in your research, how difficult or easy was it really to get the facts and to get it right?
With this particular book, I would say it was actually quite difficult, because a lot of the airmen didn't really leave autobiographies. We know about Errol Barrow as a political figure, but we don't know so much about him in terms of what he thought or felt when he was serving Britain during the Second World War, when he was flying these planes. And during that time, it was actually very difficult for men who were not of pure European descent to fly. The RAF and the other forces didn't actually take people who were not white. Well, of course, women out of the question, but even men. So it was difficult to get a lot of this information. But over the years, I have been developing relationships, talking to museums and archives, and that's how I was able to start accessing some of this.
And so you've been able to distill it now into a book for children.
Yes.
But us adults, we want the story too.
Yes.
So naturally, I would hope that it makes it very easy for us to assimilate as well as adults to get to know. And so the right excellent Errol Walton Barrow, one of our national heroes, is listed in the book. Who else have you been able to document?
Yes, so I documented a gentleman that people hadn't seen in a book before called Alexander Patterson. And he was actually now Britain's first known Black pilot. His father came from Barbados, went to Britain, and married a British woman, and he was actually born in Britain, so he was black and British with a Barbadian father. And he actually joined the RAF. Well, actually, it wasn't even the RAF, it was before that. He was one of the first black men to join what is known as the Royal Flying Corps, which was even before the RAF. And most people have never heard of him until this book. So I found out about him. I was also able to write about people like William Strachan, Billy Strachan, who came from Jamaica. When he was 18, he sold all his possessions and paid his own way to Britain to fight. People like Cy Grant from Guyana, and also a gentleman called John Henry Smythe, who came from Sierra Leone. So, yeah, I've been able to include quite a lot.
And it just sounds so fascinating indeed, the book, the contents of the book, it feels already like a history book that ought to be in every single school. Have you been able to have conversations with our Ministry of Education to be able to have this included into the... No.
Well, I must be honest with you, because I'm actually here a little bit on holiday. So I've come over for 3 months and I've been enjoying family and friends as well as the beach. And I'm actually writing my next book because I have a 5-book deal and I've only so far written 3 books. So I have to write 2 more. So I've been more concentrating on that. But I do want these books to be used by children in Barbados as well, and even the wider Caribbean. So I will have those conversations. They're being used widely in schools in the UK. This one, which we spoke about before, The Story of Afro Hair, this one has just been nominated for...
I'll help you with those.
Yes, thank you. That's just been nominated for the UK LA Award, which is...
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's the only award in the UK that's nominated by teachers. So the teachers in the UK have actually nominated that book for literacy as well as, which is really good. So I'm really happy about it, and I definitely want people in Barbados to get these as well. But I'd say until I have that conversation or the ministry approach me, or until that happens, don't hesitate. Just go online on the Book Depository, order the books for your children yourself in the meantime.
You know, I'm turning the pages of the story of the Afro Hair. It's so beautiful. It's just the inside is so captivating. The colorful pages, you know, and as you turn, you see the graphics as well. It will help to substantiate the story. So you begin to live it, not just the words on the page, but you see it for yourself beginning. And you're self-published, you said. This is brilliant.
I was originally self-published, but this one now is done by Scholastic, who are a traditional publisher. They have lots of money, and so they were able to spend more money on the book than I could do if I was self-publishing it. And as you said, the graphics on the front cover, you've got a gold foil. Every page is different colors. So it's also helping the children to understand that Afro hair and the history behind it is something really to be valued. So that's actually done in a gift book format.
It's beautiful indeed. And so, you know, you get to, in this book, and this is not the book we're talking about, but in this book, you know, you get to meet some of the ladies in the salons that the ladies would have gone to. The pressing combs, there's a story about the pressing comb, which a lot of you know for sure. I've seen my sisters use it, so I know what I'm talking about here. And all of that. So this is also a great book, by the way, The Story of the Afro Hair. Can I see the one, the story of the Britain's Black
Airmen?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I can turn the pages here and we see their faces immediately. This is the young Errol here.
That's right.
This is the young Errol Barrow right there. So you see his face on the front page as a young man. But again, too, this is great artwork. Who's done the work for you?
This one was done by a Grenadian illustrator called Elizabeth Lander. Because one of the things that I'm doing, I'm writing the books, but the illustrators are going to be black illustrators from various places, the Caribbean. My forthcoming book, which I'm not allowed to talk about yet, is going to have, well, I'm going to have a book coming out about a little bit about a story in Barbados, and that's going to have a Jamaican illustrator. So I'm trying to get, you know, give a bit of a exposure as well to the illustrators that need it too.
This is great. Now, I tend to test the book by the first set of words.
Okay.
And this book begins, at the turn of the century, Britain was a rich and powerful country. However, not everyone in the country shared in this great wealth. British society was divided by a class system. People belonged to the class their parents belonged to. It was a strict system, and it was difficult to move into another class if you were not born into it. I'm gripped right away. So right away you started by looking at the class system and how these black airmen proved against that structure that was designed to keep them down.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things, person, that I don't want to do with my books is just write, okay, there was a man, Errol Barrow, he was born on this date, he did this, this, this. I want to give context and explain the history. And I think a lot of us, even adults, sometimes forget what the context of these things were, what happened in history. A lot of people ask me, well, why haven't you written a whole book about black Airwomen? And I said, well, because of the issues of gender at the time, people just didn't expect women to be able to fly planes. So how could you have black Airwomen?
Wow.
Even just to have the Airmen was an achievement in itself at that time.
You're quite right. At the back of it, there's a glossary of terms so you can get to understand what it means. So a Barbadian is a person who is a citizen of Barbados. So all of that is in this book indeed. It's called The Story of Britain's Black Airmen, and in it is the right excellent Errol Walton Barrow. He is on the front page. His story is told in this, plus another story of another Barbadian and as well, and other people of the region. So this is great. So we want to commend it to you. It's available on
the Book Depository, which is a online bookshop, and they deliver worldwide with free delivery.
With free delivery. The Book Repository indeed. And while you're here, did you bring enough copies? If folks no. So
I'm going to be sending some. People have to order it online. I'm here to write, but I will be back again.
Oh, this is brilliant. We commend you, folks. Her name is Candice Chimbiri. She's the author of a number of books. This is her third book, The Britain's Black Airmen. It's a great book to have in your school, and to have in your homes. We get to need to know a lot more about ourselves and the people who've built our societies, and they've made us so proud indeed as black airmen, defying the odds, defying the system, defying everything, and being proud Caribbean people indeed. And it was written by this Caribbean woman, a Barbadian, Candice Chimbiri. Candice, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope that everybody gets a copy of each of these books. The Book Repository online, and you can order it, and it's free delivery to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you're welcome.
Morning, morning, morning.